Welcome to the State Board of Elections Board meeting for December 5th, 2024, beginning at 3:30. The chair put forth the declaration of a quorum being present, um, and ask if there are any additions to the agenda. All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Um, Now, everyone here, I want to take a moment and I'll allow my fellow members to take a moment at this time if they like to discuss their post general election remarks based on the State Board of Elections capacity and accomplishment of pulling off a tremendous effort in the performance of our general election that we just had, a presidential general election. And I must say, as your chair, when I came into the State Board of Elections and saw the staff engaged at a level of enthusiasm that was amazing and professionalism that was amazing, despite any individual um, proclivity that they may have in politics, they did not care. They wanted to address every concern that came up so that we had a fair and equitable electoral process, and they were at the ready. And the state board working with the local boards of election who were all in it together to pull it off in constant communication. There were hiccups, there were snafus, there were all kinds of, deep uh, situations that wanted to thwart the people's rights to our electoral process. And the way they beat it back with such professional candor, professional zeal, and courage and patience. It's an honor to serve on this board and the personnel at the state level and the local level to ensure our access to the polls and our free exercise of our right to vote. And they did not care um, what party you were affiliated with. They made sure that you got to do what you came to do in upholding our electoral process. So thank you all so very, very much. And I will stop there. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for everyone involved. So, as well as my board members who ensured that everyone had what they needed to make a free and fair electoral process take place.
Can we raise our
Uh,
hand, Mike?
Sure. I didn't. I see Diane's has no mic. I was going to go there, and then I'll follow with you.
Okay,
But Mr. Vice Chair, if you don't mind.
whatever. Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
Thank you. Diane, did you have something?
Yeah, I have a whole list. I went to a lot of different counties, probably 6 counties, and I were there at least, and a lot of different places. So I have a whole list of just little suggestions that are very, very helpful. But I think it'd be better if I put them in an email, and then you could all look at them because I think Jared's going to have that meeting in May with everybody, and I think there's a lot of suggestions that were very, very good. And I think that would be important. There were some issues, of course, like you said. Um, and some of them are countywide and whatever. So instead of taking a lot of time here, I think I'll write them up and put them in an email that everybody can see them.
That would be great. Very
The one
courteous.
suggestion that I really, really like though, and Jared, this is for you since you like to do these PSAs. And the suggestion was to put out a public service announcement for people to check their voter registration. And that way we won't have so many provisionals because their address is not correct or their date of birth is not correct or the name is spelled incorrectly. If they moved or they forgot what party they are. If we could put that out ahead of time, and then we would really get rid of a lot of these provisionals because people have forgotten whether they signed up for this or that or whatever. And that was came up a lot of times, and I know you like to do that, so that's for you. But I will go ahead and get this together because I went to a lot of different places, and I mean, just like Chrissy over at Queen Anne County. I mean, her storage is so bad. She was so happy that I was there to show me around and show how little storage space they have. But they're like every different county has a different thing. But it'd be nice to take a look at them.
Yes, thank you very much, Diane.
So I'll do that for you all. Okay.
Greatly appreciate it.
All right. Here we go.
And with that, Jim, Mr. Vice Chair.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly want to echo the sentiments of our chair. It's such a proud feeling to be part of this board. I spent most of the time in Montgomery County, and it went very smooth under David Naiman's leadership, and Boris, our election administrator, went very smooth. You know, it's a big operation. I remember I was told that Montgomery County is bigger than like 10 states. So they ran a wonderful operation. I'm so proud to have been their president and to be on this board. The only thing I would say that was a cloud over this, and I don't know if Jared feels comfortable talking about it, but it was in the newspaper that 15 of our Board of Election sites had received bomb threats from overseas. I got a lot of inquiries about that. It was in the paper. Jared, is there any follow-up to what was in the paper that wouldn't compromise an investigation or that the public should know about that?
We're following up with the FBI on that and our federal partners. It was overseas, so it was probably I would say an effort to disrupt the process, and cause a little bit of chaos or havoc. It did not, and we completed our mission. So I'm happy about it, and we took every precaution to ensure the safety of not only the staff but also of all the volunteers that were doing the canvass as well. So yes, but this is something that we will make sure that whatever our federal partners need on that front, we're supplying all the information to them for their hopefully a successful follow through on that.
Yeah, well,
And
Yeah,
Jim, thank you
I-
for bringing that up, because to that point, Jerry, while I was there at the State Board of Election on election day, the EMTs, the first responders that were there on site were working in coordination so well. It felt really good to know that we were in a safe space statewide. They were responsive. Yes, things occurred, but they were responsive, and Johnny on the spot, or Jane on the spot. I'm sorry if I offend anyone, but and because they were there, it was an extreme team that provided safety real time for our electoral election workers and the sites thereof. And Jim, thank you for bringing it up, but Maryland was definitely at the ready.
Well, no, thank you for your leadership and Jared, your leadership. I know, Jared, from the reports that I read, that you took immediate action and you not only were concerned about the 15 sites, but from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you initiated safety precautions and measures in all our boards of elections. And I thank you for that. It was tremendous leadership. Just unfortunate we got to go through that. I just felt bad for election workers that may have been quite upset about this, but thank you for your leadership.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Are there any other comments from the board? Okay, Jake, Member Washington, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first want to echo everything everybody else has said. Jared, you and the deputy administrator ran a fantastic election, and I hope you take 1 minute to give yourselves a pat on the back. 3 million people voted. It's a heck of a thing. And congratulations on making it through your first primary and general election as administrator. No small task. I took a couple of notes on some of the conversations we've been having over the last month. And so kind of want to go through it and just a couple shout outs. Um, you know, I think you mentioned to me the other day about Erica Riley, who on her birthday drove the Baltimore Mayor's Commission for the swearing in. You had mentioned at one point Natasha Walker and her team working long hours, updating election results and certification process. So the election was certified today. And these are folks that, correct me if I'm wrong, were regularly working way past midnight
Oh, yeah.
to get the job done. And it's above and beyond. Both you and Katie were talking about the customer service team and all the work that Marianne and her team were doing to both make sure that customer service was being responded to, emails and phone calls, as well as some of the work that Marianne was doing with the corrections voting project, which is one close to my heart. And just thank you for all that. I know, and I want to come back to it in a little bit, but both the SBE staff helping with same day registrations in Prince George's County, but also how you were able to corral staff from other local boards to help out so we could certify today. Thank you for that. I can't mention customer service. I was shocked when Katie just dropped this random factoid about Lisa Dennis fielding hundreds of calls a day, which just sounds exhausting. But your team throughout, professionalism are words that kept coming up, courtesy, calm under pressure. These kept coming up in conversation, and just continuously want to thank every staff in the state board of elections and local board of elections. It's just incredible work. Also need to point out, and we'll get to him later by the AG report, but our AG Dan Cobrin, who I tell people I'm one of those attorneys that wouldn't know what to do if I walked into a courtroom. I'm very glad we have an AG who very much knows what to do when he walks into a courtroom and before he walks into a courtroom. And just thank you, Dan, for your leadership over all this time. So on local boards, just want to touch on two things quickly. First off, I got to spend some time watching the Montgomery County Board canvass their ballots after election day, and watching those folks in action reminded me of just how hard every single local board has folks working around the clock and just nonstop to make this happen. I also need to be selfish and give a shout out to the folks at my early voting site in Anne Arundel County, because as the administrator knows, I showed up with my two kids in tow, who, as you've seen from time to time when they come on screen, aren't always on their best behavior. And these folks did not know I was on the state board or anything, but they were just so. I went on a Sunday afternoon. There weren't a lot of voters there. They were so delightful and they were so patient. And I think, there were a couple moments of, oh my God, what is this dad doing? But just, it was a reminder to me of just the work that all these folks do and the care they have for everybody who's coming in to vote. And so just thank you for that. One thing I do want to bring up, and we can maybe add this to the discussion that Ms. Butler was talking about at a different meeting. So I was watching all the certifications, right? And all the provisionals and all the ballot counting. And clearly there was a lot. I mean, I know Montgomery and Prince George's had around 28,000 provisionals, just for example. Obviously, we have some bigger counties in our state, right? Baltimore City and Montgomery didn't stop counting until didn't certify until right around Thanksgiving, and thank you for that. And Prince George's didn't certify this morning, and thank you for that. And Mr. Damaris, thank you for all the work you and your staff did, and the local boards did. I spoke to some of the board members, and just thank you to all of them. One thing I think would be worthwhile to consider, and Mr. Damaris, if you can chew on this, I don't know if this is something we can do or something we would need to go to the state to do, but I think there is a need for greater transparency from the local boards in terms of what help they need from the state board, right? If we're reaching the beginning of December and we don't know what help they need, but the clock is ticking, I think it's very hard to provide it. If we're in a place where 10 days after the election, they are just sending you a letter, and it's something I like us to look into requiring, but that they have to just send us a letter of either we're good, we're going to meet the certification deadline, or we're not good unless we get some additional assistance, and this is the assistance that we need. That added transparency, I think, could go a long way to make sure that we can keep things up and keep things going in time. So something to think about if you can look into and get back to us about when we have kind of a longer discussion that Ms. Butler was mentioning, but that was one thing I wanted to flag. But just again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think we can feel really good about the way that this election went, and really good about the safety and security and accessibility of Maryland's elections. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Weissman.
I'll be last and forgive
Member
my throat.
Jackson
I'll be
Stanton.
very brief. My contact, thank you, Jared. I didn't know it was your first election. Here in Dorchester and Wycomico County, my two contacts, they were very, very well pleased with the way the system worked for them. Early election in Wycomico County was a little dicey. I know that you probably already know that they had to call the authorities to calm down some of the people who wanted to make an issue of how they wanted to vote. I didn't get into all the details with them, but they knew I'm on the state board, so they were comfortable talking to me. Dorchester County had no problems that I could determine on election day. We're all certified, we're good, we're small, so we could get things done a little more efficiently than larger metros. I want to thank the board for allowing me to be part of this process. This is also my first election at this level. So I was anxiously taking notes and listening and paying attention, hopefully. So the next time I can make tons and tons of notes like the rest of you guys. And but I thought I was very honored to be part of this group. And here in Dorchester County and Wycomico County, things went as expected. The election was done. The winners have been named, and we're moving on down here on the shore.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate that, Member Stanley Jackson. Now we are moving on to the approval of the minutes. Everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes. Does anyone have any comments, updates, or edits at this time? If not, I am open to a motion to accept the minutes as proposed. Member Weissman,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been probably seconded by Member Vice Chair Shallot. Yes. Oh, I thought you had your hand up. Thank you. Oh, that was okay. Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimously approved. Thank you so very much. And moving on to State Administrator's Report, Jared.
Cool, thank you. And I just want to say thank you for all those comments. It means the world to me. I'm very proud of the work that was accomplished for this election and all the effort that the team that they did. It's truly remarkable. Everyone has a real passion for elections, and it's something that I tell them never to forget, because it's our job, but it's these people's, it's enfranchising, citizens of Maryland, making their voices heard, and you can't ever lose fact about, we're taking a small portion and just helping our democracy, flourish here, and it's just it just is amazing to me. So, and the fact that it's also that we're the shining beacon in the world for democracy, and holding our, I hold ourselves up to a high standard, and we met that, and I'm just very proud of everyone and their efforts that they did, and I couldn't do it without them all. So all the success is also on them as well. But now to the administrator's report here. Just a couple of things. I participated in a documentary with in Montgomery County with an 8th grade class, and talked about they really want to focus on uncontested elections and the work of the state board. That was very interesting. The Department of Legislative Services has issued their issue papers, published their issue papers, and they had the election highlights related to vote by mail, AI in elections, in-person voting, and of course, future procurements as well. The partnership with KO Public Affairs was very successful. I think our outreach program was just incredibly successful. We engaged in, tons of press conferences and also the paid media that we did on social media. I'll get you a report for everyone afterwards, but one of the things that I was noticing was that our meta outreach, because we reached everyone in Maryland over 18, I believe we had over 26 million engagements or impressions, sorry, 26 million impressions. And the accounts that were active was basically half the population of Maryland that we were able to engage at one point. And that was just through Meta and Facebook. So that's just kind of, we did an extensive outreach program, and it was just very successful. And you can see it because over 3 million people voted in this election. The other thing too, which was we received the necessary information from ES&S regarding the new version of software for the ballot marking devices. This is that software that will allow for 2 columns for candidate names, but the software just doesn't do that. The software alters other processes, such as election results. So this is something that, since this voting system was already certified, it has been determined that the board doesn't need to certify this new version of the software, but will exercise its power under the periodic review and evaluate it under Election Law Article 9-102C. And the evaluation may include the use in a special election in Prince George's, so we get to see it in real time as well. So that's kind of the a future thing there, and seeing if it's something that we can use for future elections in 26, but we can have a good demonstration and analysis at that point. In the Candidacy and Campaign Finance Division, the last campaign finance report was the post-general report, and that was due November 19th. All the winners of the races had to we certified that they filed that report and that they were in complete compliance with campaign finance rules and regulations. If they were not, they would not have their commissions issued. So if they owed any late fees or didn't file a campaign finance report, they would have to, they could not get sworn into office until that was rectified. But everyone was. The next campaign finance report is due January 15th, 2025. It's the annual report. We expect a lot of activity between now and then, especially because once session starts in January, the 90-day prohibition kicks in at that point. The fall business disclosure report was due for businesses with contracts of $200,000 or more, or companies that employ a state lobbyist. They were due on December 2nd, so their filing was successful as well. And, it's funny, basically we just put to bed the 2024 election, and, you have to, what I always say, once one goes down for an election, you just reset the clock at this point here, and candidate filings for the 2026 election will begin on February 25th. I mean, that's right around the corner here. So that's just kind of where we're at. As you can see, there were some website stats for you, but overall, we had some good activity in enforcement. We collected $3,350 in the month of October and $8,550 in the month of November, with the committees there and the violations that they occurred there. In election management, some local board news, like Member Weissman mentioned, a lot, all the ones certified. So basically everyone was certifying. There was the delays was because we had that unprecedented number of provisional ballots that was cast during early voting and election day. And so, but everyone had been certified. We have a Board of Education recount in Frederick County. And it looks like we're going to probably have one also in Prince George's County as well. So, and, again, all the stats for customer service that was just phenomenal throughout this entire process. And I think that you can't, in this day and age, when everything is, when the elections management and administration is, the integrity is also in question, having that customer service element to it, I think goes a long way. And it was adopted whole stock by the staff, and we bought into this, that being out there, doing the outreach, making sure that we are responsive to the voters, that it helped, it restored a lot more confidence that we always knew, the systems were safe and secure, but the public perception now received that, and knowing how responsive we are to that, because I think that went a long way. The staffing, we deployed 500 resources to the local boards during the general election, to help with everything that was going forward with it. And this is just, offering services for, technical support for the voting systems, training for the election judges, election field support on election day, and much more. So it was, quite an undertaking what's going on here. The regional managers, of course, at the end of this, completed several parts of a comprehensive audit, especially related to logic and accuracy of the testing of the voting systems. And, we wanted to make sure that that was all done so that everyone can understand that the system itself, the voting systems, were, audited prior to their use, and that, again, it was safe and secure moving forward with it. I'm gonna just, a lot of this stuff is already kind of known about, what's going on in the information systems and technologies. We had our data centers. All this was just to determine, to make sure that, as a critical election systems, that we have to make sure that, they have failovers and fallback exercises all prior to the election, making sure that, whatever, as the chair mentioned, whatever is thrown at us, we will have a backup, and that voting will just continue on seamlessly. It's a lot of moving parts, but it's been fantastic to make sure about it. And of course, now we're going to make sure that we get any enhancements and reconfigurations be ahead of the 2026 statewide election as well, because, technology is always evolving, moving forward with it. Let's say, election night reporting, we implemented a standardized reporting process to prove consistency. And I think that you could see that. And, we made those results directly available to the media outlets. Along that now, we are going to start publishing precinct results. They'll be up on our website, I think either later today or Friday morning. So that's, another part too that that team does, that, the media and a lot of campaigns want to also do deep dives into as well. So that's going to be up and available for the public to see moving forward with it. I think that overall, I just wanted to, talk about the SOC a little bit here, the Security Operations Center, that, it provides, are multiple layers of independent threat monitoring and manages all our security services. You know, this is again making sure that our system is safe and secure. And you know, we are just, you know, always, you know, updating it and working with it. And along the lines there of making things safe and secure, I want to welcome Achilles to SBE. He began just after the election on November 13th. He is a new CISO. You know, so he's great. He comes from us from Capital One, where he led the technology risk management initiatives and targeted risk assessment program. So this is great. You know, having our chief information security officer in-house, and you know, this again helps us with our initiatives to make sure that, you know, we keep it safe and secure. And having that resource now it's great to have. As for some procurements, moving forward here, I think that the biggest one here is that at the end, I just want to mention is the MD Chris, the Maryland Campaign Reporting Information System. We had 5 proposals. It was very robust. Our procurement director was very happy with the proposals there, and we awarded our decision, and we conducted debriefs, and we're looking at a late January BPW meeting to certify that selection, and it will be on target for a March, end of March, early April takeover for the new system as well. And you know, the statewide poll book modernization project is, you know, now on track for the RFP to be released in early 2025. So that is moving forward with it, and we are of course doing all the necessary work on a new voting system project as well. One of the things too is that for all the you know, in the government here, there's a lot of need for social economic programs for minority business enterprise, small business reserves, veteran-owned business, and we had we exceeded the state goal, which was 29% for that, for awarding those as subcontractors or contractors in it. We exceeded that, so that's fantastic. With that, moving forward with it. I commend our procurement division, making sure that we have all those programs, and that we make sure that our vendors know what we want to succeed at as well. So I guess one of the bigger things now, I'm just going to go down to mail-in voting, is that we accepted a grant from the voting assistance program, the federal voting assistance program here about it. And so we have a couple of contractual workers now on staff. This is going to be great, because as we move into it, the special election that will occur in Prince George's might be a vote by mail special election. So, you know, this is great having additional resources on board to help with mail-in voting. And mail-in voting, by the way, over, you know, it was, you know, we had, I think, nearly 800,000 people vote by mail in this election here, or a little bit over. It was, I mean, it is here to stay in the state of Maryland. It is a very, you know, if you look at it, it was like 1 million people, almost 1 million people voted early, 800,000 voted by mail, and the rest then voted by on election day. So it is a substantial portion of our electorate uses vote by mail as a preferred method of voting. So that is important. Now, voter registrations and operations. We do our monthly audits of the voter registration data to continue and verify compliance with federal and state laws governing voter registration. And now we will be focusing on duplicate voter review for the 2024 presidential election. This is just the beginning, and we will, complete this by the first quarter of 25, and then any referrals will be made to the office of the state prosecutor. And of course, we work with Eric and, you know, and making sure that we process all the information that they have as well. And we have election audits here. We're doing the comprehensive post-election audit. That's to ensure that the local boards of elections are adequately performing their tasks as required by election law and COMAR. And this is one of these things too, that as we go through this comprehensive audit, this is, you know, I have to perform evaluations of election directors, and this is kind of one of the bigger task item for us to kind of use to provide to their boards of elections about you know, how they succeeded or had deficiencies in the comprehensive audit. Again, you know, we do, of course, the automated tabulation audit, which, you know, helps the accuracy of our tabulation system, the voting system here. And, you know, as to date, there have been no issues discovered. So it's been fantastic moving forward here. And we have preparations are now also underway for the post-election manual audit. So that's underway. And we also are going to do an RLA, which is a risk limiting audit pilot in Harford County. So I wanted to thank Stephanie up there in Harford County for doing that as well. So you know, we're just going to see how that goes, because that has been a major topic for the General Assembly moving forward with it. Election judge recruitment, you know, let me just say, you know, I think it was very successful. We had a ton of election judges out there, you know, but you never have enough recruitment efforts here. So, you know, we hit our goal. We had, you know, over 37,000 election judges recruited. My daughter being one of them. I'm not sure if she was recruited so much as told to become an election judge, but that's a different story. But you know, fantastic work. And we had numerous election pages as well. Again, you know, I thank them. You know, these are 15 and, you know, 14 and 15-year-olds. They're getting involved in the civic process of it. I'm extremely ecstatic that they wanted to be involved in this election, and I hope that it carries throughout their lives on that front there. Overall, voter registration, we have over 4.3 million active registered voters now in Maryland. You know, a lot who were signing up during the same day as well, so this is great. And you know, now the voter registration is back being open now, so we are able to provide you know, online services. You can do voter updates, request mail-in ballots for the 2026 election here. And lastly here, we did I just want to talk about some delegated duties. We did some updates to the mail-in ballot application to change the dates from 2024 to 2026. No labels is no longer a political party, so we removed them from voter services and the voter registration application and the mail-in ballot application. And then finally, I just want to mention I designated Native American Lifelines as a voter registration agency. This, you know, now this designation, I think, is the 5th time that the Native American Lifelines in the nation has been designated a voter registration agency. The Native American population, this is something that I did not know until recently, until I started really doing some deep dive, was that they only have had their right to vote for the last 100 years. It was, you know, before that, they were not able to vote in American elections. So, you know, as a historically disenfranchised community, you know, and that this is something that, you know, directly affects them. It's a health organization. This designation will go a long way in helping them reach that community and provide additional resources for them to be a voter registration entity. So I think that this was a fantastic designation. And, you know, I went to one of their events to promote this, and, you know, they're very happy about this. And, you know, we'll make sure that they get all the necessary paperwork and, you know, support that they need to be a voter registration agency. So with that, I submit my admin report to you, the board. So
Thank you very much, Jared. Diane, do you have a member Butler? Do you have a question?
Questions? There we go. Okay. Jared, it's the socioeconomic programs. So this is minority businesses, small businesses, and veteran-owned businesses. And
Yes.
we try and use these businesses with our different contracts. Is that what we're doing here?
So yes, so we put a goal when we issue an RFP,
Right.
right? We say, you know, 5% or 10%
Right.
should be that, and you know, be sometimes you know the best part is that when we get these bids that they've now exceeded we exceeded what we usually put as our minimal, and now we have exceeded a lot of the state standards as well.
Except for the veterans. We did not exceed it there, correct?
That
We're
was
like,
tough. Sorry.
we're only a third. Okay, so that's where we need to look at more. Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more question on the judge recruitment. How
Mhm.
close to parity did we get with our judges?
I'll have to
Or-
get a deeper dive into that. You know, we were just trying to grab as many across the board, but one of the things now is moving forward, the last for this election that now will take effect, I think on January 1st, is that the state board can now do an outreach campaign for election judge recruitment.
Good.
And so that's something that I'm looking forward to, you know, in expanding our, you know, already successful outreach program for voters to have something designed specifically for that, you know, element.
Excellent, thanks.
Okay, no more questions, member Butler? Your hand's still raised. Okay. Member Weissman, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a quick one. First off, to echo Member Butler, kudos on the hitting those different goals. I mean, outpacing the state goals is absolutely where we should be. Aside for the veterans businesses, and we need to find those opportunities as well. But thank you for that. Just a quick question: as you're kind of going through and churning out all the data, and I know we'll get the precinct data soon, and nerds like me will be in 7th Heaven. Is it possible, and we don't need these but to get a sense, a breakdown of provisionals by county, if possible, the reason codes for the provisionals, and then for mail-in ballots, are we able to get breakdowns between mailed in ballots and web delivered ballots?
So yes,
by
some of that stuff is already available on our website. We have,
Oh, awesome.
especially the mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
Between that, we
And is
will
that
get-
broken down by mail and web delivered?
Yes, like there's the chart up there, and then there's another one too that once we get a little bit more time, we will compile a little bit more in-depth the rate of return for mail, you know, specifically, you know, versus web delivered, and the breakdown between domestic and UOCAVA voters on that front there as well.
Perfect.
So yes, and then as to the provisional, we do have the coding that's going to go through. That's something that I was very much a part of, that I want to look at and do my deep dive and get my you know, my data, you know, hat on for that. And in code 4 was one of the ones that was a kind of a dual one, which was like, I have voted already or I have not received it. So we then that's the one I had the supplement added to, because at that point there, like, if I've already voted or I haven't received it, those are two uniquely different things.
And that's where I wonder if it might be worthwhile to break them out
Right.
for the
Yeah.
26
So
election.
the next, let me just say, this, it was too late for the 24 when I took over to change the forms. We had already bought them all and everything else. But that's
Sure.
one of the things now that as we go through the coding on this to see like how to make provisional ballots much clearer, and as to the reasons why, because I think, you know, what we saw here was we saw a historic number of provisional voting.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't want to continue provisional voting. It's a voting of last resort. So
Yes.
every time I can get more data from it, the better off we are, so that we can say, oh, this was the reason why. Let's do something about that.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Mr. Administrator. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Weissman. Member Butler, see your hand raised again.
Yeah, because some of this stuff I did write some of these other things in here, so I will go back to reading those. Two things that I wanted to add that I forgot earlier. Sarah and Judy from Rockville said to say hello to you. And then also, Katie, you got some kudos when I was out in Carroll County. I guess you used to be the director there. But anyways, they were talking about how good Aaron was, but they were going all the way back to Katie and saying that because of how well you had set it up, then Aaron was able to step right in. And you really got a lot of nice, very nice comments. And I wanted you to hear that in the public meeting, because these other things will be, you know, they're just things that we'll deal with. But I wanted to give you those kudos.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
More than one person mentioned that numerous times. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we are moving on, if there's nothing further, to the AG's report.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm here with the AAG report. So at end of the year, last one, and I'm proud to say the final toll was 14. That's how many times the state board, a member of the state board or the state administrator was named in a party in a civil action. So you had 14 cases this year. But here's what the current list looks like. Number one on the list, and hopefully everyone has a copy, is Sullivan v. Summers. This is the NVRA lawsuit that is currently in a holding pattern, only because both sides have fully briefed out motions for summary judgment, and we are awaiting a judgment in that case that's in the district court's hands. Number two, Wicomico County branch of the NAACP versus Wicomico County. The news there is that on November 25th, before Thanksgiving, we had a settlement conference. I'll discuss with you in closed session a little bit more about that settlement conference, obviously to keep everything confidential and privileged. But otherwise, there's nothing else to report with that case. Number three, Gibson v. Frederick County. Nothing ongoing, still waiting a decision from the Fourth Circuit. Last action in the case was a renewed motion for oral argument. OAG responded to that motion in opposition, and it remains pending. There's a number of motions that the plaintiffs have asked for, and the case itself remains pending before the Fourth Circuit. We're hopeful we'll get a decision soon. Number four, Maryland election integrity versus the state board. This has an oral argument next week on Thursday. And so next week, I will head down to Richmond to argue the case in the Fourth Circuit on behalf of the state board. And we'll report back to you next month on how that goes. Hopefully after the oral argument, we will, within a couple of months, get a decision from the Fourth Circuit. Number five, Will J. Hanna II versus Baltimore City. The state and Baltimore City local board were named as defendants and both filed motions to dismiss. The plaintiff never responded to the motions to dismiss, and so we're hopeful the circuit court will be dismissing it soon. We're now outside of the window in which the plaintiff can file a response to the motions. And then finally, six was Brian Della Rocca v. Susan Lee et al., in which Mr. Summers was named as a defendant in his official capacity as chair of the state board. That had a hearing on October 25th. And the court, after hearing argument and entertaining both parties at the hearing, dismissed the matter. It is no longer pending. The time for an appeal has passed and there is no appeal. And so if there aren't any questions, I'm happy to help out. Otherwise, have a lovely new year.
Mr. Corbin, no questions, but a huge kudos. Thank you so very much for the dismissals.
It's
Greatly
my-
appreciate it. But going forward, I do recognize your effort and thank you so very much and good luck on the 12th, man. Anyone else? Any questions, concerns, kudos, recognitions? No? Okay. Best wishes. All right, moving on to the next. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Moving on to the next topic on the agenda. We are at Title 13 late fee waiver request. And has the board been able to review the Title 13, Title 14 late fee waiver request being presented? Are there any questions or concerns with regards to that to our state board official?
Mr.
Go ahead,
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair.
just for people that may be watching, could one of the staff just give a brief layman's definition of what we're doing with this? What this is?
Sure, I can assist. So Title 13 are candidate committees, PACs. These are entities that file with us, and there's a few reasons that we can waive their late fees, and it can be for medical reasons or so. And it's laid out here in the memorandum, the reasons that we can grant a waiver, and there's some discretion for the board to make that determination. So this is our recommendations, and this is your final vote on our recommendations from the state board. So
And these are late filings, financial filings, right?
correct. They have to file campaign finance disclosures with us, and these fees are related to late filings.
They're fines in effect, correct?
Correct. They're
Okay.
fines.
And
Mhm.
what
Alan.
they're seeking to not get fined because, correct?
They're seeking to have the fines removed.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Okay.
And then, I mean, sorry, Alan,
Mhm.
this information is on the website
It is available publicly on the website.
and the memorandums are posted
Correct.
on the public website.
They are.
If they wish to read and find out more about the Title 13, Title 14 filings, they are able to go to the website for the clarification.
That is correct.
Thank you so very much. Now, with that being said, are there any questions or concerns regarding the proposed memorandum or the proposed recommendations of the State Board of Election Representative to accept the recommendations? Is there a motion for Title 13, Title 14 waivers?
I make a motion that we accept the Title 13 late fee waiver requests and the Title 14 late fee waiver requests.
Thank you so very much. Member Butler, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded properly by the Vice Chair. Are there any questions, concerns? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. I can't see every member. Thank you very much, Member Jackson Stanley. Duly noted. I did not see Member Weissman. One second. There he is. Yeah, you moved from my screen. I only see Jim, but it's cool. Thank you so very much. It has been unanimously voted and accepted for the State Board of Elections recommendations to of title request for Title 13, Title 14 waivers. All right, now moving on in the agenda dealing with number 9 regulations 33.14.02.14. Jared, do we have representative introducing this? Would this be you?
So I'll do this. So-
Okay, thank you
so
very
this
much.
was, so this was regulations that the board had accepted and moved forward at the last board meeting, but when we went through some of the processes with DLS on this, we came back and Dan kind of agreed with it that there was a part in in B1(2), B, which talked about that a candidate, an eligible gubernatorial ticket candidate committee endorsing another one, that the other campaign could not use that endorsement. The prohibition on that is not on the other campaign, but it is on the publicly financed campaign and their use of their image, and the fact that they cannot move forward or do any sort of campaign finance activity for another campaign entity there. So basically, it was just, I look at it this way here, in the easiest way is, for campaign finance, like for contribution limits, it says no person may give more than $6,000, right? A campaign can accept more than $6,000. They just have to return it, but the violation is not on the campaign for accepting more than $6,000. It was on the person that made the contribution that exceeded $6,000. So it was just kind of the way the wording was here. So this with everything, we have worked with DLS on this, and this is now the correct wording, so that if there is a violation of it, it is attached to the publicly financed committee and the candidates, not necessarily the ones that received the endorsement. So we just wanted to make sure that that was clear, and it was a good catch, just for clarity's sake, as we move forward with it, if there is ever an infraction and an enforcement action is required. So
Thank you
with
very
that,
much, Jared. I greatly appreciate that explanation. And could you give the breakdown, or could you explain the acronym DLS? What does that stand for?
Department of Legislative Services.
Okay, so that they had reviewed it and
Yes.
assisted in rectifying
Exactly, yes.
the situation. So that's great.
then
Thank you very much.
With this here now, it was just basically, it's about a suspension of a publicly financed campaign, what they're eligible, what they have to do in order to cease their activities, and what they can then do when they endorse another gubernatorial candidate. So that's the other 90% of the regulations are exactly the same as before. So with that, I ask for your approval of these proposed regs.
Right. Are there any questions? All right. Hearing and seeing none, I don't see any hands raised. Chair is open for a motion to accept the recommendation of the state administrator. Member Weissman,
So moved.
is there a second? Has been properly seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. And all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. I have unanimous consent. Thank you very much. And the board accepts the recommendations for regulation 33.14.02.14. So thank you all very, very much. Greatly appreciate it. Is there any old business? I don't see any registered here. Any new business? I know, Diane, Member Butler, you have your email that you would like to share with us, one that may contain new business. But if there is new business, and I see your hand, go ahead. Is that for now? Go ahead. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I had some old business too, real quick. We were talking about that Open Meetings Act the last time around.
1 second, to make sure we're on new business. I know you have old business.
Yeah, you went too fast through. old business.
Okay.
I didn't get my hand up.
All
Yeah.
right. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so this is the old business.
So this is to make sure which one we're talking about. Old
Right.
business. Mhm.
Right. So the Open Meeting Act, Senator Kagan called me a couple more times, and I think we had some issues, and Jared and I got some letters, and anyway, we've had some issues with the Open Meetings Act quite a bit. So, and I think that Senator Kagan is going to address it legislatively. So, because we've got to address the lack of open meeting protocols following the law, the citizens' ability to participate in open meetings, So I think legislative, she's going to take a look at that, but maybe we want to get a head start on this for the local boards ourselves. I know Jared has called a couple people, a couple of directors that were involved in some of this stuff. But we did get more, I think Jared and I got more letters, some disturbing letters that we got recently about the behavior of the boards, and the citizens were sending letters that they're very upset about the behavior of the boards. So I think we're going to have to look at that at some point, and I'm not quite sure how to go about it, but before the press erroneously starts printing something else, by definition, it's my job to make sure that we're following the laws and the COMAR regulations. And so for all the laws to be addressed and enforced, we need to take a look at it. I don't know, Jared, if you want to share some of the other letters that we got from the other people that just came in last week.
Sure, I can circulate that one around to the board.
Yeah, and then one of the other, Mary Nelson, who spoke at our meeting, I think last time or the time before, I think she sent a follow-up letter, and she said that she wanted to move the public comment down to after some of the meeting has been held, because I guess they do all their public comment. Some of these counties do it at the very beginning of the meeting. And then she says questions that come up during the meeting, they're not able to address them. So I don't know how and I'm not sure how we go about doing this. I know the local boards kind of do their own thing. So, but these are things that have come up. And again, I'll add some of these into that other list that I'm putting out there, but we have had different letters, and we need to start dealing with these because it's a problem. And then the other old business was the parity. We kind of, the AG I know kind of went through and kind of discussed how he thought it was okay that we were doing the parity the way we were, and that's become an issue. We're still the directors are hired to follow the laws, and if they have to work harder or smarter to follow them, then so be it. The parity is paramount, and we're going to have to deal with that. When I have citizens, judges, board members, county council persons, or commissioners, sheriffs, etc., contacting me about the law not being followed, it is by definition my job to bring it to Michael and to Jared and this board and the whole board, and to have the laws followed for the next election. So I know Jared's going to look at the parity, but I want to bring it up because that was part of my notes. Go ahead.
I just want to remember to send it all to me so that we don't violate any Open Meetings Act by trying to talk about the Open Meetings Act on that front there. So then, I just kind of like on that front there. I just wanted to.
And even
then I can distribute it accordingly. Okay, I know that Dan's head was probably exploding a little bit on the side.
All right, that's why I'm asking how to yes. This process to do this. So, but we definitely want to do that. It's just the new letter that came in about the directors using they weren't using relevant judges to achieve parity even when they could, and this caused some problems. And we're trying to be as transparent as we can be, and I would like that always be our position. So, okay.
Thank you very much. Does that complete your old business?
That's my old business.
Any comments or concerns regarding from the board regarding those issues? Okay. Not at this time. If there are, we will work with Member Butler in addressing that. Thank you very much. And moving on to new business. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for the new business, and I don't know if I'm doing this the right way either. So for those of you that have that haven't served on a county board before, there's a process of evaluating the directors at the local board level and at the state board level. Jared's evaluated once a year, and the local board directors are evaluated twice a year. In Howard County, we had a sheet that had a list of different things to evaluate them on and different numbers for grading them. So I think it was like a 1 to 3, and you could give them a 1.5 if you wanted to see improvement in that area. You could give them a 2.75 if you thought they were doing a really good job. And then the board would write comments about what the director did very well and things that we'd like to see the improvement on. And those comments were very, very helpful. The evaluations were important, and Jared now gets to see those. We worked with Guy, our director in Howard County, on his management style to try and bring people along and move them up into more important positions so that as people retired, there were other people to take their place. and that they would consider this as a career and not just a job. And when we worked on and talked to him about that, and it worked really, really well. Guy took the direction in the vein that it was offered, and it really worked well. And he's done a great job of, moving people up and saying this, is where you'll be in a few years when I'm retiring and whatever. So that worked very good. The reviews can also show some weaknesses in a director, and I know that Jared has personally had a talk to a few different directors around the state during the past election about following laws in the Open Meetings Act, following certain laws, parity laws, and the Open Meetings Act. So in the spirit of transparency, I want to make a motion, if this is the way we do this, that all board members' comments are included in their director's evaluations, not just an up and down vote of what gets included, but all board members' comments to be included at the LBE level as well as the state. I'd like to implement that as soon as possible because the local Board of Elections evaluations are coming either in December or January. And I'd like the board members notified that all the members' comments are to be included in the evaluation. Unfortunately, Jared and I received some very disturbing letters from citizens and board members concerning the behavior of their directors and the board presidents. So transparency needs to be honored. The point of having a board is to improve the process, not to complain, but to improve the process. So
as part of this being new business, it's a proposal. We are not making emergency motion to be voted on without content for review. So what we would typically do, and what we can typically do, I see your hand, Member Weissman. I'll get to you in just a moment. But with regards to new business, we definitely have a conversation with the state administrator, and it gets added to the agenda under new business to prepare everyone for what's to be discussed under new business. And what you're speaking to now maybe would be more about additions to the agenda for that discussion, which was presented up front. But it's okay. It's okay. But we're not proposing motions that we're unaware of to vote on. We are aware of some of the issue that you are presenting, which I think we are getting to a working document towards a regulation. If it is a regulatory matter to be resolved. So I do appreciate that and bringing it up to the board members. I caution us to make a motion, especially if we are binding local boards of election in this motion. That's not our role at this time. And based on how some of the issues that you brought up, and I would need more background, but personally. But aside from that, we can work with these issues being presented if they're moving towards being presented as a motion and regulatory fix. But Member Weissman, I see your hand. I think you have a comment to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Butler, I appreciate you bringing this up. A couple points of clarification, a couple questions. First off, my understanding from my experience with election law is we, the state board, cannot bind the local boards in this regard. We can suggest, we can recommend, but we cannot bind them in any way. Similarly, if I'm remembering the legislation from last session correctly, and forgive me, I didn't know this was going to come up or I would have looked it up. The evaluation of the local director by the state is by the state administrator, not by the state board. And so we wouldn't be, we can give comments to Mr. Demarinis, but Mr. Demarinis is the only one responsible for those. I understand that complaints have come in from residents in the local counties in that regard. But the evaluations that Mr. Demarinis writes up are, first off, they are by him, not by the board, and also they are, for lack of a better term, informative and for guidance, but they don't have any relevance in terms of the state personnel process from a Department of Budget and Management PEP process, right? That's a separate thing. So I guess my comments are, number one, we don't have the ability to force that on the local boards, right? I mean, we can suggest it, and I would hope that all the local boards are taking local residents, concerns into account. But we can't force it. And similarly, I think Mr. Demaris, it would be helpful as you're writing your evaluations for local administrative directors that you take into account comments from residents, but those aren't
Yeah.
ours to write. And then my question, Ms. Butler, would be helpful is if there's something you're proposing that we vote on, and I wasn't entirely clear if there was, do you have anything in writing, kind of a motion? Yeah, that was what I had.
Thank you, Member Weissman, Member Butler.
That was my question for Jared too. I think, is this new this year where you're looking at their evaluations or something? There was something we talked about. And I knew that
Yes.
was new this year. I just want to make sure that all the board members' comments get included because there was an issue with the board where they just voted that they were only going to take these comments and not take everybody's comments. And they just did a 3-2 vote and voted the other comments down. And we don't ever improve that way. We don't, if there's an issue and you just want to pretend that, you don't, and, we were very careful with our evaluations. Some of the other places, they just hit straight threes across and they never look at what you can do to improve. And so these are important that they understand that and deal with that. There's a lot of new board members too that are out, that are up on the boards because of the new governor. You have a lot of them and, they're reading all the rules and they're saying, well, we're supposed to be doing this and this is not happening. And then the director's going, oh, we don't deal with that, because for 20 years they haven't or 10 years they haven't. But we still do need to be doing that. We need to look at it and we need to improve our process at all points. So having each member to have a spot where they can put their comments in on the evaluations, I think is important. So I don't know how to get there,
No,
but that's why I'm asking.
well, this is actually great that you asked. I think
Yeah.
we can get there by working with the state administrator who can also synthesize your information and share it with all of us in a collective and cohesive way and manner so that we know that you're not talking about the state board of election. You may be talking about the LBE, the local board of election, or the local
Right.
boards and not convolute the two because it depends on how it's being addressed at this time. And it could be
That was my question.
misconstrued that it's state board, no, versus local boards, possibly. So based on what I'm hearing from as far as evaluations, because we also have an evaluative process that I will conduct with each one of you guys for our own administrator
Yeah,
and get your comments. But that's fine. But I would like to talk to you about your experience and what that evaluative process looks like, okay, from your
Yeah.
experience at the local level. But yeah, let's have you work with Jared. And
Okay.
feel free to call each one of us too to
Okay.
have the dialogue.
That's a good idea.
It's just
Okay.
not
Yeah.
more than 2 or 3, not more than 3. We're not, it's just you and another member,
Right.
one-on-one,
Okay.
having a conversation in preparation for what you would like to present a new business. So we're all engaged and have a robust conversation about it during our meeting. But this is great to bring it to our notice. And that's the way we would use this new business is to make us aware about what we need to do going forward and how we will work together to meet those ends and the needs of the citizens like you so amiably addressed. So thank you so very, very much. Member Butler, is there anything else that you have to that you wanted to cite for new business? Okay, I don't want to, yeah, I think we can move to work to a solution for this issue with you. To where if it does not require legislation or a regulatory fix, then great. But if it does, I think we all need to be on the same page and can agree to what needs to be undone so that we can move it.
Yeah, and I was hoping that Senator Kagan would get back to me beforehand, but she had such bad laryngitis we wanted to
I
talk.
understand.
And then I would know kind of what she was thinking at that end too. But
But
so
see,
we-
that's great. Yes,
Okay.
right. So we'll be comprehensive. So that's great work. That's
Right.
great work.
Okay.
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 Thank you so very much for that. If there's nothing else from any other member regarding new business, we can move on, hearing none, seeing none, to disclosure of campaign contributions. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chair, I
sorry.
just think Senator Senator Kagan,
That's right.
she
I
did
didn't,
speak, sorry,
yeah, we
was it
did
on
add,
the agenda?
yes,
'Cause
I appreciate
but,
that reminder,
yes, I
Chair.
think she had the link and everything else and was
Is
able
she
to speak.
ready? I did not see her in the. So thank you. Sorry, Senator Kagan, if you're listening.
You- No, she got the link. Okay. Okay, I guess, no, so, let me just see. So I guess, yeah, the link was sent. So I'm not sure if she's able to get it, on that front. So if not, we can always get her for comment, for the next, board meeting,
All right.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess, yeah, so.
Is there any disclosure?
I went to a GOP event. It was I don't know, whatever it was a VIP party for after the elections.
Okay, thank you. Member Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I made a contribution for Zeke, now I guess City Council President Zeke Cohen's celebration tonight.
Thank you very much.
Nothing to disclose, Mr. Chair.
Thank you
I have
very much, Member
nothing.
Jackson Stanley. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Nothing.
All right, and Chair, nothing. With that being said, we have our next scheduled meeting on the book for January.
I think it's
January
January
23rd.
23rd.
I'm sorry, what's that?
January 23rd.
And
January-
is that at 2, Mr. Chair?
I think it's back to our normal scheduled time, or should we, how are people feeling with the 3:30? I like the 2,
I like
the way
the
it's set. Okay. Thank you very much. 2,
So what time is it?
2 p.m.
January 23rd at 2.
Yes,
That's virtual?
yes. All right. Now, we are moving to a closed session. We have a few things to address. Yes.
Chair, I think, sorry to say that I believe that, Dan had to leave a little bit sooner than expected. I think with, the way
Okay.
the weather has,
Turned?
yes,
Okay.
a little bit, so that he had to leave.
Understand.
For his personal matter, so,
Okay.
it was just an update,
Right.
so, he said that he
Understood.
can email, the
Thank
board
you.
the update.
Thank you. So there's no need for a closed session. The chair is moving for a motion, or is open to a motion for adjournment at this time. Thank you also very much. I recognize Weissman, Member Weissman. as-
So moved.
And is there a proper second? So properly moved by Member Butler. 2 snaps. Thank you very much for that. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you very much, Member Jackson Stanley. Thank you. It is unanimous. Everyone have a great week.
Christmas to everybody.
Exactly.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. Yes.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.